I don't know if Midnight Protocol is a bad game or a great game I just so happen to dislike. What I am sure of, though, is that after 20 hours of restarts and rollbacks, Midnight Protocol is one of the more unique and frustrating times I've maybe ever had with a game. Set 40 years in the future, Midnight Protocol puts you in the shoes of Data, a hacker recently released from federal custody after charges against them were dropped, and dropped under suspicious circumstances. Everything is played through Data's desktop. Exiting the game is logging off, and to load your save, you'll log back in. Who Data is, their personality and moral compass, is largely a blank slate, gaps left open for you to fill, like a motherboard absent a CPU and graphics card. Data's dialogue is delivered via random keystrokes, typed out character by character, an eerie connection to an unknown protagonist that even allows you to see changes in their thought process mid-sentence. Matching its soft, grainy color palette, Midnight Protocol is a world of gray, hacktivism, vigilantism, and crime across a digital Wild West with no rules. Well, as long as you're not caught. With great hacking comes great power. Companies lie, people cheat, people die, and you're out to deal judgment. But are you so sure you can give it to them? Midnight Protocol is intriguing, mysterious, and poignant. Its main and subplots interweave and bounce back and forth. An email is never as simple as it first seems, nor a job, nor a threat. There are a lot of awesome ideas and a ton of creativity here. On many levels, it works extremely well. A white hat, black hat morality system tracks your decisions and actions, eventually even unlocking morality-specific abilities. There are a ton of decisions in this story you'll need to make, and you'll want to be careful from whom you steal and from whom you don't. Reading between the lines is encouraged and even somewhat gamified. Head over to Midnight Protocol's intranet, type in the name of a company you're about to hack, and maybe you'll learn a thing or two that threatens to waver your conviction. Even with only a computer screen staring back at you, Data's fellow and opposing hackers are humanized, given personality through the way they chat and the details of their lives you'll uncover. The anonymity of our real world can be dehumanizing, toxic, and destabilizing. Midnight Protocol is, somewhat ironically, a nice reminder of the humans behind the handles. I can say with certainty that Midnight Protocol, as a story, had me engaged and thoroughly entertained, no doubt partially due to some strong resemblances to some of my favorite science fiction. Unfortunately, what I can also say with certainty is that Midnight Protocol as a game did not reach that same level of engagement and entertainment, and it almost all has to do with these dots right here. Midnight Protocol is a turn-based RPG. You get 2 actions per turn, and like the entire game is played through a desktop, it's also all played with a keyboard. No mouse or controller needed. All of your actions have to be typed out like commands. Want to move to a new node? Type move, the name of the node, and hit enter. Need to attack ice? Type in the name of the attack, the node you're attacking, hit enter, and watch the sparks fly. Once your turn is up, then starts the turn of any enemy hackers, sysops, status effects, and, most importantly, Trace Protocol. After each of your turns, Trace Protocol attempts to track you, effectively giving each of Midnight Protocol's missions a turn limit. Depending on the mission itself, this limit could be anywhere from 6 to 20 turns. If Trace Protocol reaches its limit, you'll lose credits, the screen starts to short out, and not long after, Data's PC is corrupted, and it's game over. Luckily, Trace Protocol is not a hard limit, and there are plenty of programs meant specifically to mitigate it, like Cloak. At full power, Cloak gives you a 75% chance to stop Trace Protocol, meaning the turn limit can and likely will be extended so long as Trace Protocol rolls poorly against Cloak's 75% chance. That's all simple enough, but the devil is really in the details here. Nearly all of the programs you'll use to hack run off slices, of which you start with 8. Often, a program's effectiveness is relative to the number of slices you assign it. Cloak's 75% chance to stop Trace Protocol is with 8 slices, but you're going to need other programs to get through levels, a lot of other programs, and most have a minimum number of slices to operate. Dagger is the first program you get to break through ice. At its minimum power level of 2 slices, Dagger's attack deals a little more than 11 damage. Depending on what kind of ice you're attacking, 11 damage could take forever to break through. Of course, you can increase the number of slices Dagger has assigned, which will increase its damage, but you'll be taking those slices away from something else, like Cloak. And the fewer slices Cloak has, the more likely Trace Protocol will detect you. For Midnight Protocol's first few hours, I found myself really struggling to gain a footing, to get into the flow of gameplay. I think overall it's just too constrictive, and the origin of that is Trace Protocol. Your deck is the collection of programs you take into missions, and Data's hardware can eventually be customized with chips that give you an assortment of additional abilities as well. To start, your deck has 5 slots for programs. Soon enough, all of these programs will be competing for slices. Some, like Cloak, are vital and others more contextual. Sniffer, as an example, reveals any hidden ice between 2 nodes. At the beginning, connections between 2 nodes don't give any hints as to whether or not they're protected by ice. The only way to find out is Sniffer. Sniffer takes 2 slices, remains active for 2 turns, and can't be manually deactivated. In the first few hours of gameplay, checking the connection between 2 nodes means Cloak is going to be reduced to at least 6 slices, about a 56% chance at stopping Trace Protocol. If Sniffer detects ice, then you'll need to avoid it or get rid of it, and if you're in a hurry or don't have an alternate route, that means reducing Cloak even further to attack. Taking power away from a program doesn't count as an action, so if Sniffer does detect ice, you can take a few slices away from Cloak and activate Dagger to begin an attack. But if you want Cloak running as well as it can, which you'll often want, you'll have to end your turn, wait until Sniffer deactivates, and then activate Dagger. And of course, doing so doesn't guarantee anything, since Cloak does not provide immunity to Trace Protocol, only a chance to avoid it. 4 hours in, and what started as a really interesting hacking RPG turned into constant trial and error. You can restart missions on the fly, which is convenient, but Trace Protocol is so constant and random that rolling back a mission becomes part of the process of getting through it rather than just a convenience. And even if you calculate all your moves perfectly, if you think 4 moves ahead, know what programs you're going to run and how many slices to give them, Trace Protocol could still successfully roll against Cloak, and suddenly you'll find yourself running out of turns and typing rollback once more. Early on, I became stuck in a rut where I wasn't sure if I was doing something wrong or if I was just under-equipped for the missions I was playing. Thing is, you're not always paid credits to do a mission, and oftentimes the only way to gain credits is by taking them from financial nodes. But interfacing with a financial node takes an action, which means gaining credits is often, though not always, pushed up against Trace Protocol like everything else. So while upgrading my programs and hardware and experimenting with them seemed like the obvious solution, I didn't have the credits to do so. It probably didn't help that I was attempting to go full white hat. If you're role-playing as a black hat hacker, there are definitely more opportunities to steal money. Luckily, Midnight Protocol has a few options to tweak its difficulty, like extending Trace Protocol and making ice easier to destroy. You can even make yourself invincible, which is great because the story really is cool. So it can be made much easier, but at the cost of severely diluting the strategy of its gameplay. In the few missions where there are other forces to challenge you, other hostile programs that don't necessarily have an immediate connection to Trace Protocol, there seems to be potential for gameplay that pits you against something other than a dynamic turn limit. But that's where everything funnels back to. I had planned on doing a scored review of Midnight Protocol, but its early hours were just too unpalatable, and once I was changing up the difficulty and seeing which options made it feel right, I was far enough from what I assumed was Midnight Protocol's intended experience that I felt uncomfortable giving it a grade. Before finishing this script, I had started playing Midnight Protocol a second time to see if I had missed something, to give it another shake. And while 20 hours of previous experience and knowledge definitely made the intro easier and more lucrative, I continued to find myself more annoyed than challenged or engaged. I guess I just don't like Midnight Protocol, and maybe there's not much else that needs to be said.